The title of this speech is Pandemic Judaism. The speaker is Mark Weber. The date is September 19th, 2020, which is Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year.
It's a pleasure to be with you today. Edmund Flegenheimer, better known as Edmund Fleg, F-L-E-G, was born in Geneva, Switzerland, in the year 1874. He died in the year 1963. Mr. Fleg was Jewish and also a French writer, thinker, novelist, and playwright, famous primarily at the end of the 19th century. Few of Edmund Fleg's writings are well known, but perhaps the most well known is one of his essays entitled, "I Am a Jew Because." I am a Jew because being so revives in me a sense of the Jewish people and our struggles. I am a Jew because in so being, I am seized with the desire to make our values and traditions live on into the future. I am a Jew because being so requires no abdication of my mind or my intellectual curiosity, such as it is. I am a Jew because in all places where there is suffering and oppression, the Jew weeps. I am a Jew because the message of our people is both an ancient one and a modern one. I am a Jew because in every age, when one cries for justice and justice happens, the Jew hopes. I am a Jew because our promise is not the promise of one particular people, but rather a universal promise. I am a Jew because for us, the world was not created, but it is being completed now by men and women. I am a Jew because as a people, we place the welfare of humankind over and above the welfare of nations of the world, and over and above the welfare of our own particular people. I am a Jew because we are not a chosen people, but rather we are brothers and sisters of the people of the world. And finally, I am an American Jew. I am an American citizen first and a Jew second. These could be, perhaps, the core beliefs of a new sixth branch of Judaism called Pandemic Judaism. This latest branch has no seminary, no rabbinate, no national organization, no local organization, and no due structure. Its scripture is not the nationalist narrative of the Torah, but rather the ethical teachings of the Hebrew prophets. Its orientation is toward universal brotherhood or sisterhood, and not toward the self-determination of one particular people over others. Its final demand is for more justice not more land. In this new year, the first of Tishrei, in the year 5781, American Jews are facing a menu of afflictions that includes a deadly virus that has killed more than 250,000 people, wildfires that have devastated the western states, signaling a climate emergency, vicious tropical storms that have ravaged the Gulf Coast and caused record flooding, and outbreaks of social rebellion over police violence toward people of color. There are children in cages and the rise of right-wing nationalist militia who pose a threat to the existing democratic order. All that seems to be missing are the locusts, the frogs, and the hail. How might American Jews respond to this, a world with more hazards than the biblical legend of the Exodus migration? Perhaps a beginning might be to see Judaism or Jewishness not as a movement for national or territorial rights, but rather as a force for international human rights. Pandemic Judaism should not be a political movement designed to promote territorial gains in historic Palestine. It is a moral and a social movement aimed at bringing the promise of justice and equality to both Jews and Arabs in the Middle East and in America to all Americans. Pandemic Judaism is not a God-centered movement. It is a movement that is focused on justice. And whether or not you believe in a supreme being is a personal choice. But believers and those who are agnostic or atheist must work together to build a better world. Pandemic Judaism has its roots not in the romantic nationalist dreams of Theodor Herzl, but rather in the angry words of the prophet Amos, when he said, and I quote, "I hate and despise your festivals, but let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream," end of quote. Pandemic Judaism is rooted in the words of Hillel, when he described the essence of Judaism as being do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All the rest is commentary. Pandemic Judaism is not checkbook Judaism. It respects charity, but it demands justice, and the two are not the same. Pandemic Judaism values all Jews and all people. It does not judge people by the size of their contribution to the synagogue building fund. Pandemic Judaism asks the question, just what is the moral difference between Jewish children in camps in Europe and immigrant children in cages in America? Pandemic Judaism is not a partisan political movement. However, its adherents stand with the poor, with the oppressed, with those who have no voice. After all, our ancestors were poor. They were poor immigrants who came to America to escape and to build a better life. Pandemic Judaism asks, in fact, demands that we choose. Is our first priority the welfare of a foreign nation where some of our family and friends have chosen to live? Pandemic Judaism sees our obligation as that which protects human life, the earth, and the world as we know it. And finally, Pandemic Judaism asks that during this period of the days of awe, we cease the practice of seeking forgiveness from a supreme being, and instead practice seeking forgiveness and understanding from those whom we have wronged. There is no afterlife. This life is all we have. When we die, our possessions, our debt, our wealth, and our politics will all disintegrate in an instant. Pandemic Judaism tells us that our greatest legacy can be our actions to end pandemics, both those born of disease and those born of injustice and hate. The time is now. Thank you.